All right, so we got Mr. Alfonso Peter Bailey here. Thank you again for sitting down with me. I really appreciate it. It really means a lot. So I just want to ask, just to start off, like, what was your childhood like growing up? In the Columbus, Georgia, to Tuskegee, Alabama. Like, what was your childhood like?
Okay, well, I was born in Columbus, Georgia, and because my father was in the military, he was stationed at Fort, I think it was a place called Fort Benning, which is one of the places where they took black soldiers. And my father's home was Tuskegee, Alabama, or Tuskegee Institute, Alabama, because we always call it Tuskegee Institute, Alabama, because that's the black part. The white folks call it Tuskegee, Alabama, and we always call it Tuskegee Institute, Alabama. But and I went there when I was about 3 years old, while my father was in the military, and I lived there until I was almost 15 with my grandparents, which is where my father grew up, and we I would stay there during the school year, and then we go where my father was in the summertime because he didn't want to drag us around, my sisters and I around, where we would have to get behind in school because in the middle of the year he gets transferred somewhere else. So we stayed there, so we went to school straight through for the whole school year, and then we would go where he was and stay, and then come back, when school began again. And I moved out of Tuskegee about I guess about 2 weeks before my 15th birthday, because my father got stationed in Germany, and so he decided that we all going to Germany. So me and my father and my six sisters and my mom, we went to Nuremberg, Germany. Although we were in a little place they call Furt, Germany, Furth, which I guess is to Nuremberg like I guess Silver Spring is to Washington D.C. It was like a little place out right outside of Nuremberg, but Nuremberg was the main thing, Nuremberg, Germany. And of course I went to Nuremberg American High School, did a high school there for children of military personnel, and and we had a football team and a basketball team and a baseball team, which I played on because we had that different places: Frankfurt, Germany; Stuttgart, Germany; Wiesbaden, Germany; Ham, 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 Hamburg, Germany. So we had like a conference like you have in high school. I graduated from high school there in 1955, and when I graduated in June 1955, and in late August 1955, my father got stationed back in the United States, and we went to again uh, after about my birthday was in February uh, of 1960. I graduated in 55. In February of 1956, I was going to be 18. So in January of 1956, I joined the army, and I stayed for 3 years. And I basically did it because for the GI Bill. I did not do it because I was interested in being a soldier like my father. I just I said, hey, this is the way to get the GI Bill and don't have to pay for college. So I joined, and I uh, took my basic training in South Carolina, and then after that I was a medic. They sent me back to Germany, and when I got back to Germany, I worked at a clinic for 2.5 years, where it was a medical clinic where we dealt with military personnel and their families. And I worked with the doctor. I was like an assistant working with the doctors and that kind of thing. And that's where I learned a lot about medicine and the importance of medicine. And I saw so many times I saw brothers, black dudes come in uh, and had things that they would not have had they known. You can't do this. You don't do this. You don't do that. But they didn't, so they would just be doing all kind of things that were getting them into trouble, with the medics. And but but it was a very very learning experience. And of course uh, I took a course there where they have these, you can take those military college courses in the army. So I took one in history, and of course they made me completely fascinated with Germany. I'm right in the middle. Nuremberg was where the biggest where the Nazis had their big demonstrations every year. It was in Nuremberg. You know, so I'm right there in the heart of basically of Nazism in Germany. So as a result of that, I became very interested in it, and I began to do a lot of studying of history. I became a real serious history, and then of course I got into Black history, and that's when I began to really learn uh, about how this country had lied. I mean, not distorted. Some people don't want to use the word distorted. In some cases, maybe somebody distorted, but basically they were just lying about the real history of Black people in the United States of America. So that's it. You know, I got out of high school, 1950, 50, 56. Well, I really went in January of 56. I got out in January of 59, and I came to D.C. and went to Howard University. And I deliberately came to D.C. because at that time my dad was stationed over in Maryland, and so most of my family were living in the D.C. either in Maryland or Virginia or D.C. So I decided to go to Howard, and I went to Howard for 2 years, and of course majoring in political science. That was I had absolutely no thing about becoming a journalist at that time, and that's how I got how I got into journalism was that uh, there was someone had a publication, not a publication, but like a newsletter that they were putting out, and asked me to work with the newsletter. So I started taking journalism classes, you know, at Howard, and just journalism. And I mean, they had a situation there where you could take classes like that and just pay for them without enrolling as a full-fledged student. You could just roll in that journalism thing. I don't know whether they still do that or not, but I did that for almost a year and a half, and ended up getting a paper from them that I had taken that situation, and that's how I became a journalist.
So how did the racial climate, growing up, how did that like kind of structure your view of the world and like, how you saw things?
Well, growing up in Tuskegee, to be very frank, Tuskegee, when I was growing up there, I lived about a mile, maybe 3/4 to a mile from the campus of Tuskegee University. It was then called Tuskegee Institute, not called Tuskegee University. So I used to walk up there, go to football games and that kind of thing. And as a kid, man, unless I was in a store or something when those guys were bringing soft drinks around to these black-owned stores in the area where I lived, I could go over there and see any white people. The only white people I saw consistently is that because I went to a Catholic school, because it was about a 10-minute walk from where I lived, 10, 12-minute walk from where I lived. So instead of walking all the way up about almost a mile to go to the public school, they enrolled me in the Catholic school, and that's and I enrolled there when I was in kindergarten, and uh, and then I had taken a half year of kindergarten, and then I took a half year at the Catholic school. Then the next year I went into the first grade, and I went from there. I went through to that Catholic school in Tuskegee. We had white nuns that as teachers, Irish Catholic nuns, and of course we learned way more Irish history in that school than we did Black history. In fact, we learned no Black history, but we celebrated Irish holidays. We didn't celebrate a single Black holiday, but we celebrated St. Patrick's. That was a big deal, St. Patrick's Day. We had to have full-fledged programs and dance and do all kind of things, celebrating St. Patrick's Day. I look back now and laugh about all of that, when I got very much involved in the movement. But I must say that just for the basic things, math, English, those nuns taught us well, but they didn't teach us no. As I said before, most all those nuns and the priests were Irish Catholics, so we learned Irish history and their antagonism toward the British, because so we became more anti-British because not because of what England had done to enslave African people, but because of what they had done to the Irish. And so, so we became more anti-British because of what they had done to the Irish than we did, because we didn't know about what they had really done, to black folks. So nobody was teaching us that.
When did you well, two parts. One, did you experience any racism there at that time? And
I don't remember any out and out, from the nuns. I mean, some of the things they did, you could that I felt later as I got up and started, getting involved in things, that they basically sometimes uh, talk to us like we, how the whites and Catholics whites go to Africa. They do that in Africa, but they basically did the same thing. That same way. They came that same way with us. That we were some kind of inferior, uh, uneducated folks that they got to educate.
did you always feel like that? Or you said
No,
looking back,
no, I did. As I said before, when I was studying there, I didn't think about that because I didn't know anything about all that history. So about what they done, what England had done in Africa and all that kind of thing. So I just thought that it was good. We were learning. We learned. They taught us math and English and all that kind of stuff. Um, uh, but again, as I say, man, when it came to history, they taught us Irish history and American history, and of course they taught us the lies that everybody else was teaching. And I didn't find out, of course, until later when I became more aware of the real history of the United States.